Oh, so much royalty here tonight.
Is going to descend.
Oh, how fabulous. Oh, that's wonderful. Oh,
Alrighty, good evening, everyone. My name is Daniel Barrett. I'm an event facilitator here at Shelagh Robinson Booksellers. And before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory, and that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, the Nunawak, Anishinaabe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, as well as the homeland of the Red River Métis. Additionally, McNally Robinson Booksellers itself rests on the land that was once occupied by the Métis community of Roostertown. And of course, we are gathered here today to celebrate the Winnipeg launch of the latest book from Tara Gereaux, that is Wild People Quiet. Give it a round of applause. Many thanks, of course, to Scribner Canada and all at Simon Schuster Canada for publishing this book and making this evening a reality. So to let you know how the event will proceed, there will be an introduction from Katherena Vermette, followed by a reading from Tara, and then a conversation hosted by Shelagh Rogers. The conversation will be followed by an opportunity for you to ask questions. So when the time does come, just raise your hand nice and high for me to see, and then I'll come by with this wireless microphone, simply to ensure that everyone's heard on tonight's live stream for the folks who are watching at home. And without further ado, I would like to introduce and to bring up our host for the evening, Katherena Vermette, who will be introducing tonight's participants.
Right, thank you. Hello, Ante. How's it going?
great.
Oh, we got some royalty in the audience
Oh, yeah.
tonight. Oh my goodness. Everyone's coming out for Tara Gereaux, rhymes with Trudeau. And this beautiful book, I have to say, if you haven't seen it, it is so gorgeous. I have never loved a cover more than this particular cover. And the title, Wild People Quiet, you know, it's winning on so many levels and doing so well and so well received, and we're so excited. I'm here, I wear many hats in my life, and one of those is hanging out with the folks at Simon & Schuster and Scribner Canada and helping them make books. So this was one of my first projects when I went over there. So I started at my job maybe a year and a half ago now, and I'm not a corporate person, to say the least. I tend to be really disrespectful of most corporate things like deadlines and timekeeping. And I wasn't sure about how I was going to succeed in that environment until I read this book. And then I realized it was a place I wanted to be. So thank you, Tara Gereaux, rhymes with Trudeau. I'm going to say that over and over again until I remember it. And my purpose here is really just to read the bios. So I'm going to start with Sheila's. We all know who Shelagh is, and she writes her own little bio here. So I'm just going to read her words to you, because this is my role. Even if Katherena Vermette, that's me, hadn't pushed Wild People Quiet into the hands of host Shelagh Rogers, Shelagh would have been smitten by its cover, right? But she is delighted to confirm that Wild People Quiet is in fact a book you can judge by its cover. She found it to be so compelling, she read it in one sitting. And in an increasingly rare moment, she found herself wishing she still had a radio program, so she could put Tara on before anyone else discovered her. Oh, Shelagh is deeply grateful to me, thank you, and to McNally Robinson, thank you for the opportunity to host the Winnipeg launch of Wild People Quiet, because in Tara Gereaux we have the great new Métis writer in our presence. Woo! And also because this story of hiding Métis identity is the story of Sheilagh's family as well. Tara Gereaux is the author of Saltus, which was shortlisted for the 2022 Relit Novel Award and 3 Saskatchewan Book Awards, and Size of a Fist, a teen novella, which was also shortlisted for 2 Saskatchewan Book Awards. Tara holds an MFA in creative writing from the University of British Columbia and has worked as a writer and story editor for film and television. She is a citizen of the Métis Nation, Saskatchewan, and lives in Regina on Treaty 4 territory and the homeland of the Métis. I'm gonna get out of your way to enjoy this amazing conversation.
Thank you. Thank you for everything, Kate, and also Daniel. And I love this bookstore so much. But I must say, every time Roostertown is acknowledged, I love it even more because it was a road allowance community. And it was bulldozed and burned down to make room for Grant Park Shopping Center. And there's so much about road allowance communities in your beautiful book. And I want to say thank you to you, Tara Gereaux, and also to McNally Robinson for hosting us this evening, and to all of you for coming out to welcome Tara. And we're going to begin. I'm going to stop talking. Tara's going to read. So I'll turn it over to you and then we will have a chat. And if you'd like to ask questions, you are so welcome. Welcome to Tara.
Is that close enough? Can you hear that?
I think you have to love it.
Up to the mic. Is that better?
That's good. Yeah, that's very good.
Okay. I'm just gonna read from the beginning so I don't have to set anything up. August 1946, Torduvalle, Saskatchewan. The air sizzles in from the hopper window. The heat's been excruciating this past week. Florence nudges the bathroom door closed so the air doesn't warm the house and reaches for the peroxide under the bathroom counter. She pours some into the spray bottle and dilutes it with water from the tap, measuring by eye only. A faded towel wrapped around her shoulders, she works at her hair in sections, using a brush to guide the mixture as close to her scalp as possible, covering the brown roots that are just beginning to show. A Saturday night ritual every other week for nearly 30 years. No one has ever asked her about her hair. Most don't even know, though there have been a few women in town in recent years who've commented, either praising her particular shade or deriding her, not quite out of earshot, for trying to emulate those Hollywood starlets. She's flattered they would think that of her, that she would be the type of person to aspire to looking like a star. Florence sits on the toilet lid and waits for the peroxide to tingle, never using a timer now, knowing by instinct the moment when the roots will be lightened to the perfect hue, but before the skin on her scalp blisters. She plans her day tomorrow. Church at 10, return home to prepare the pork roast, gravy, and potatoes. She'll also make a pot of tomato and macaroni soup to eat with some cold roast pork buns for the workday evenings when she'd rather read or listen to the radio than prepare a meal. A wave of heat rolls in and she looks up at the slit of sky. A branch from the Manitoba maple in her front yard stretches into view. It's not quite September, but its leaves are already turning at the edges, bright and golden yellow. The color is startling, searing. She holds her breath. Colors used to consume her. She spent so many of her waking hours, and sometimes her dreaming ones too, thinking about colors and how to work them into her floral designs, how to craft a story with her beadwork. She was careful when selecting a particular hue, deliberate in her choices because colors held meaning and feeling that was different for everyone. A shade could ignite joy in one person, pain or regret in another, and colors could spark memories, sometimes ones you tried to forget. Florence pushes back her thoughts as she forces the window shut. It's all just history, all in the past now. She waves the towel shawl around herself to create a breeze. She's Florence Banks, a secretary of Pratt's Insurance and Real Estate in the town of Torduvalle, and a respected member of the community for the past 11 years. She blends in with everyone else. The tingle on her head turns to a sting, almost a burn, while her dark hair fades to a perfect shade of blonde.
You remember that tingle? Did you ever try it?
No, I did not, but I did have to, because I am gray. I started growing gray when I was 16. And at first I thought that she would be dyeing her hair every week. And one of the editors said, no, that's too much. It'd be like once a month. So I actually let my hair grow out to figure out that like Florence would need to cover it up as soon as possible. So it was 2 weeks.
Oh, well, I remember the tingle and I saw some nods in the audience. I think when, you're a teenager and you just think, I maybe want to color my hair. You try the peroxide because it makes everything so nice and bright, like your sheets. Anyway, that tingle, if you'll forgive me, it just sucked. It was really quite awful, but I do want to ask you about this cover because it truly is beautiful. And it so happens there's a wonderful story about it too. Tara, will you share it with us?
Yes. Yeah, no, there's never ever going to be another more beautiful cover than this. So years ago, when I decided that I wanted to write the story, I am not a beadworker. I don't have that experience. I just don't have the talent. But I knew I needed to learn about it, and so I wanted to do some research and meet with beadworkers and talk to them about their practice, and I wanted to watch them bead. So the first person that I reached out to was Katherena, who's here tonight.
Wow.
And I came out to Winnipeg, and you had just moved here, I think. Yeah, and I think your dad was here as well. Yeah. And we sat in her front room, and she, told me stories and taught me how to do a few stitches. And then years later, when Simon & Schuster were putting together the cover, Katherena said there must be beadwork on the cover. But I thought there's been so many amazing novels that have come out by other Indigenous authors with incredible beadwork on it. And I thought there's no way that they can come up with something new. And then weeks later, they sent me this. And I knew that this was Katherine's beadwork on the cover, and Simon & Schuster didn't know that Katherine gave me my first beadwork lesson.
Wow, that's beautiful. And it's not the only coincidence, I guess, that's happened with your book, because you had a cultural advisor as well, named Wilfred Burton.
Yes.
Who we know as an amazing children's writer and many other kinds of writers, culturalist. So what's his connection to this book?
So I first met Wilfred when I was just kind of starting to learn about the culture and reconnect. I signed up for jigging lessons. I'm not good at those either. And it was Wilfred Burton who was my instructor, and for like 3 years, I think, I took lessons with him. And then he moved to Saskatchewan, and that's why I stopped. And then years later, I knew I wanted to work with an advisor because I didn't grow up in the culture, so I wanted to make sure that I was doing things appropriately. And I reached out to GDI, Gabriel Dumont Institute, and they recommended Wilfred Burton.
Amazing. My favorite book by him is Road Allowance Kitty.
Yeah.
It's really sweet, and it's about road allowances, and it's a great way to teach kids about road allowances as well. Before we leave meeting, we are going to get back to it, I promise, but I want to acknowledge in the audience, we do have some amazing beadwork artists here this evening. Janine Crouchy is here, and Sherry Farrell-Rosette, and am I missing anybody?
Yes.
Well, and Catherine, yes, and
Margaret Furla.
oh, Margaret, thank you, there you are. Oh, thank you so much for coming, and what an honor.
Yes, and Janine was also someone that I had reached out to. I was researching. So,
Yeah. Don't worry, we got Catherine covered, I think. We've got her covered. Okay. You were motivated by something personal. You write about this in the very beginning, and I don't know if it's in the cover. I got it in the advanced reading copy, but there was a moment where you understood you didn't fully know who you were. Can you talk about that and how that got you, how that grain of sand became the pearl?
Yeah, so I grew up in the Capel Valley in Fort Capel, And I kind of always knew that we were Métis, because we would talk, my family would talk about it, but always like really quietly, and we were always told not to talk about it. And we knew that we were Métis because of my grandfather, but yeah, he never talked about it either, and he didn't want us to talk about it. But when I became an adult, both my mom and my brother and I started to do some research and look into that background. And I'm sorry.
You want to just have a good,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
I'm scared to choke without I'm gonna choke on that.
That's
you so
so
much.
Winnipeg.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you.
And yeah, so we started to uncover that history. And part of writing this novel was about learning more about the history and culture. And so that's how it started.
I'd like to ask you a very long question while you put the lozenge. But I wonder if it's partly a generational thing. In the 40s, my family left Winnipeg and moved to Ottawa because of a death in the family. And that's when acknowledgement, even of the most casual kind, stopped. Was there something about the mid-century or earlier than the mid-century, do you think, or was it just protection?
You know, I hadn't really thought about the time period, but the reason why I set this novel in 1946 was because that was when my grandpa was just a young man. And I will never know, he has since passed, but I will never know exactly why and when he might have made that decision. But he was in his like 18, 19, 20 at that time, and I thought he'd be making big life decisions then. So I set the novel at that time period so that I could understand some of the factors that may have been in play that might have contributed to such a decision.
What kind of factors?
The road allowances,
Yeah.
communities, the whole education piece that I didn't know about. These are the
Which
homes
is,
that Métis were not allowed to go to school if they lived on, if they weren't paying taxes.
there's a very powerful scene where Florence is, she's sort of coming of age and only then in her late teens, just learning to read. And it's such a gift for her. It opens the whole world up. But this is something I hadn't realized either, that was not possible. Amazing. And it's all to do with taxes.
Yeah, so the research for this actually began before the novel, because I wrote a master's thesis on reconnecting and getting my citizenship card. And I spoke with people in community, elders, knowledge keepers, community leaders, just talking about their experiences being Métis. And I didn't know any of that.
Florence is when we meet her, I think she's in her late 40s.
She's 51,
She's
which is how I am. When I first came up with her, that she was so old. Now I'm 51.
I think she's a punk. I just turned a certain age. So we also have her though in her childhood and in a period where she really is coming of age. Why did you want to have both of those sides sort of playing against each other or playing with each other?
Well, initially I wasn't. Initially, when I wrote the first couple drafts, it was all going to take place in 1946. And I was just going to have her have some memories surface after certain events happen. But then it became clear that those memories explain just so much of where she was now and how she ended up there and the choices she was making in the present. So I went back and I took those memories and wrote them out into full chapters. And that's the first draft that Katherena read. It was so horrible. It was so It was, it felt like another first draft situation.
And it, well, it is not horrible, and by the way, on camera, you can't see Katherena saying, no, it wasn't. How would you describe or characterize Florence's childhood?
There's two things I want to say to that. I mean, on the one hand, it's a childhood filled with poverty. And don't know how to explain it. Because I don't want to give away some of the plot points, but she witnesses some very horrible treatment of close family members. But it's also her home, where she's feels connected and who she really is and is accepted for that. So there's a lot of, there's two sides to it.
There's so many sides. And her mother is also telling her to be careful who she shares the information of, who she is with. What does that do to a kid as they're growing up? You know, you can't really be fully who you are.
Well, and I think that was part of our family story too.
Yeah.
Understanding that there was something there, but not knowing exactly what it was, why it was being kept quiet.
Wild people quiet, yeah. It may be the only really good thing that John A. Macdonald did, right? Gave us a great quote. Can you give us the quote?
Yeah, should I just read it?
Sure, yeah, that's.
In 1869, Prime Minister John A. Macdonald sent the Lieutenant Governor of the Northwest Territories to Rupert's Land to negotiate terms with Louis Riel and his Métis supporters for entry of the Prairie Territory into the Confederation. Macdonald told a colleague, "I anticipate that he will have a good deal of trouble, and it will require considerable management to keep those wild people quiet."
There it is, yeah. That's quite something. How did you find that quote?
That quote I found, like, I think it was a couple of years into during starting the research and drafting. And I was actually here in Winnipeg at a Manitoba Métis Federation conference. And just their paperwork and brochures, there was that quote. And it was, just leapt out at me because that was where everything began and where this whole phenomenon of going underground and hiding your identity began. And it was, I knew right then and there that was going to be the title.
This is, as you say, it was 1869, so it's around the time of the resistance, and people did go underground. Yep. I do want to ask you more about Florence's community as a child, because this is a very special person in her family, in her community, that will have a great impact on her life later on. Can you talk about her auntie?
Yes, Aunt Lillian is, she's kind of the opposite. She's sisters with Florence's mom, but they're kind of two opposite, approach life in different ways. And her mom doesn't want her to speak the language, doesn't want her to learn beading, wants her to have a better chance at a life. And her aunt is the complete opposite, speaking of punks. And she secretly teaches Florence how to learn how to bead because she knows that Florence is interested in it. And so she's a big influence.
And Florence is really good. She's a natural.
Mm-hmm.
I bet you are too. I know you say you're not, but.
I can't even say one word.
Doesn't it involve so much patience though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe, well, I know that's my problem. I've tried to bead and
I'm not good at it either.
it looks volcanic. I'm not gonna lie. Just not at all. So I think I'll stick with embroidery, which actually is in my family, but, and you stick with writing because it's great. We get to Florence itching to leave because she wants a different life too. She's witnessing kids her own age in the town getting all sorts of just inherited privilege and entitlements just because they aren't Métis, because they aren't half-breeds. So she goes first of all to Regina. What's it like for her in Regina?
When she first arrives, she's just kind of in, I'm gonna say fight or flight mode.
Yeah, yeah.
She steals some money to get there. And then it's just going like day by day, trying to figure out where to stay and how to get a job. But she is also quite terrified of being found out and what the repercussions of that could be.
She's so gutsy though. She's got to find a place to live. She doesn't have a lot of money. So boarding houses, right? And jobs like chambermaid and
Chambermaid, which is where she learns that bleach turns the sheets white.
yeah.
Yeah.
Then she gets enough together to, I'm trying to be very careful here as well. And she gets a job in a place called Torduvalle, which is not a real place.
No, it's fictional.
Okay, yeah. What's it like?
Well, so that comes years later when she finally saves up enough money in Regina. She puts herself through secretarial school, and then feels quite lonely living in this city, and because she's keeping everyone kind of at bay, and she decides to move to a smaller town in hopes that she might make some more connections. And then she gets a job as a secretary in Torduvalle. And lives there for, I think it's 11 years when we first meet her.
And she's good at her job, like one of the best.
Yes, she's like a masterful typist because of typing for her kind of takes the place of beating.
That's interesting. And she's anticipatory of all her boss's needs as well. She gets ahead in her work. She understands what they're going to need and gets it to them before they need it even.
Yes.
So she's a valuable asset to this insurance company.
Absolutely. And I think she does that as well, just to keep, so she can control everything, because everything in her life is very regimented and routine. And so that's part of where that comes from. It's like, well, if I take care of things before they need to be taken care of, then, nothing's going to go awry.
What kind of life does she have?
A lonely one. On the one hand, she is quite comfortable financially. She owns a house, she has a car, she has a good job, she buys really nice things. Someone the other night was talking about all the doilies that she has. But those things aren't filling the emptiness that she has inside.
And the emptiness is
Family, connection.
community. Though she does make a connection with her next door neighbor. And I found the development, the ebb and flow of their friendship really interesting. Tell us about Jenny.
So Jenny is her next door neighbor who is younger. She has a couple of young kids. And she's married to Garth, who works at the same agency that Florence does. But this is 1946, so Garth went overseas during the war and went like most men. And so Jenny was able to get a full-time job herself. But of course, when he came back, then he said, that's enough of that. You need to go back to being a mother and housewife again. So she's also feeling a little bit lost at sea.
But they connect. What do they connect over?
Sherry.
It's true, isn't it? Yeah. I'm honestly trying to be very careful not to, give anything away. They share a lot with each other, but it's very surface level at the beginning because it has to be. And Florence is always worried about people finding out, but eventually a stranger comes to town, let's put it that way, and it looks as though she knows this person and this person is Métis, and people get talking. And you were working through something here in a small town, word spreads really fast, right?
Yeah.
It's a big subject.
It is. What I really liked about that moment when this person from our past is back, approaches her and she denies him, he respects that. Because that was something that I learned in talking and doing research, was that many Métis people knew that this happens, and they respected that decision because they understood exactly why someone would make that same decision. So,
But there's a community not far from Torduvalle, and there are people who would welcome her with open arms, and it can't really happen immediately.
no.
I'm dancing here. But I will say one of the things that becomes very soothing, almost comforting, is a return to culture for her. I can say that. And people see the beadwork that she does and they're blown away. This woman's an artist. What does that do for Florence?
Well, it's interesting because at the time when she decides to pick it back up, because she's going to use it as a way to say goodbye to those people in the nearby community. But then when she starts going through the motions, more memories start surfacing. And she, I guess, reawakens, is that, I'm trying to think if that's the right word. And then maybe she's not ready to say goodbye.
What does she bead at first?
The first thing she beads, it's the gift to give away, to say goodbye, and it's a tea cozy.
That's a lovely gift. And then she beads other things, smaller things, but she's also beading objects from her own life, which is very cool. Can you talk about that?
Sure. Just by in between these traditional items that she's beading for others in the community, just by instinct, she decides to bead bumblebee, typewriter, candy dish, and jelly roll, and they each have certain different meanings and mark certain points in her life and journey along the way.
And a bottle of peroxide.
And a bottle of peroxide.
It's amazing, and you can see. I love how you push her as an artist. I think it's really beautiful because she can do this, and not everybody beads these kinds of objects, right? They're beading useful objects that are beautifully decorated with our flower beadwork, right? But she's taking it another step at using it as almost a diary.
Yes, that's exactly what it becomes.
Yeah. It changes her, doesn't it?
It forces her to reconsider and reflect on each of those moments and why and how they led her to where she is now.
It's also a moment in time for women, right? And if a woman wanted a mortgage or wanted to do that thing with mortgages where you can borrow against your mortgage, and I can't remember what that word is right now. Kate, can you help me here? Yeah, there's something, and do you know what I'm trying to say? Does anybody? Refinance. Happy lawyer for the win. Thank you so much. But she goes to the bank and it does, she has a name, can I say her name, or it's Mrs. Banks. She's created that name, it's a fiction. But her husband is no longer alive, she's a widow in her story. And she just can't get far at all, she's not trusted. It's not a great time to be a woman either.
Oh, yeah, well, and
Is it? No.
and that's one of the
The question was asked in the audience, is it now?
And the reason why she creates this fictional husband is because she knows that she would be more acceptable
Yeah.
As a widow that as a single.
There's a time when she's gonna have to really make a big decision here. And she starts selling off her possessions. And then coming to understand that they don't really matter as much as she thought they did. She's sort of traded something for wanting a conventional life, but she's not conventional. And I love that. I love how she grows into herself. Another thing I really like, and we were going to try to do this, we were going to introduce ourselves in the shift. But you do have the language in there and you don't translate it necessarily, but you can understand what it is with context. Why did you want to do that?
A couple of reasons. One, I've been starting to learn the language myself. Nowhere near fluent. I can say a handful of words, maybe a few sentences. But I wanted to include it in the novel for a couple of reasons. One, because it would be natural for the characters to speak that way. But I also know how I feel when I read Katherena's books and Michelle Porter's books and Madame Porter's books. When you see those words and when you recognize them and understand them without that translation, there's something that just lights up. And I wanted to be part of that as well and give that to a reader as well.
Do you want to try some Michif?
You first.
Oh boy, okay. So I just started taking lessons in the summer, so please forgive me. Okay, Shelagh Rogers, Dishane Kashun, Winnipeg ne weekend, the Kishkatane and Michif. Is that good? Yeah. You understood what I said? Did anybody else know that? Did you, Philippe? It is southern Michif, but it would be Cree Michif. Yes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, good question.
We were gonna make up our own name for it.
Yeah, we were just say that we were true to our school. But, let's see if I can do me nom de parenté. No. Anyway, McTavish, Christie, Simpson, Sinclair. Okay.
Okay. So Tara Gereaux and Michif Epimikitniam. Noah Kamawak Lila Rose, Pali Pritchard, Pali Fleury. Ma parenté Rivière Rouge. You know, I'm getting stuck. And there's Capel Valley, Dos Chin for Regina the weekend.
Ottawa Dos Chin.
Wow.
Yeah. So You were born in Fort Capel.
Mhm.
I was born in Ottawa. The rest is history. But I think when you start to learn it, it does crack something open in you, doesn't it? Yeah. I wish I'd learned it a long time ago. Are you related to Norm Fleury?
Well,
Maybe.
yeah.
Yeah. He's a wonderful teacher, fluent Michif speaker, very involved at the Gabriel Dumont Institute, translates frequently children's books into Michif and so on. I asked him if I had a chance and he said no. But not to give up. Not to give up. It was just too late, too late. It's not too late for you. It's not too late for you. I really believe that. What has finding your culture meant to you, Tara?
I get asked that question a lot, and I'm never quite sure how to answer it because I almost feel like I don't have the words for it. When we were doing some of the research, looking into the background of my family and stuff, we uncovered photos of ancestors, and like I could see my brother's face in my great uncle's face, and that does something to you too. Just to see where you come from, and who you are, and why you are, how you are, how you came to be here. Yeah.
Why you're loud? Why you're funny? It is amazing to reconnect, and at least it has happened for you, which is wonderful to be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for you as well.
Well, it has been, it's been a long time coming. My father used to say, there's a touch of smoke in our family, and that's all he would say. I would ask him what he meant, and he'd just laugh, light up another cigarette. So I thought we came from a long line of cigarettes. That's sort of it. But he left clues. He did leave clues when he died. He left a couple of rings that belonged to ancestors here, and a strip of embroidery that was done by a great-great-grandmother.
And did you embroider before you?
I loved him. I always loved him. Yeah. And I'm picking it up again. Did you feel that connection too when you began to find out?
Yeah, and I think, yes, and I think it's because my whole life we were told we were, but I didn't know what that meant and why it was not talked about. And so it was like putting those pieces together. Yeah.
Could you understand why it wasn't talked about? I mean, have you come to an understanding in yourself about that?
Yeah, I like Florence's mother, I understand. I think my grandmother made those decisions for the same reasons, because he wanted his children to have a better experience, a better life.
I'm going to turn to the audience. I'm keeping an eye on the clock. If you have any questions for Tara, this is Daniel will run to you with a microphone so that everybody. Philippe Baudin, he was the first person here, and he's the first person to ask a question.
My question is that, do you have a Red River connection? At Métis?
Yes, so the Pritchards and the Flurries and came from Red River.
Thanks, Philippe. Thanks for starting us off.
You have time for a few more as well.
Right in the back. Hi, thank you.
It's a good question. I'm gonna say, thank you very much for my sisters, to be younger sisters.
Oh, not my case. I don't think so.
The name Torduvalle, why did you choose them? What's that mean?
I wanted a name that sounded like a Saskatchewan town, but I didn't want a specific town. So yeah, there's a lot of French sounding towns in Saskatchewan, and that's so that I just made that one up.
What was it like to build a town?
That's an interesting question.
Because it feels like a town.
Well, I was just thinking about like all three of my books all take place in a small town. I grew up in a small town. Yeah, but I mean, the town also has to be a character too.
Yeah.
So you have to create those kind of details and give it a history or no history in case of this town to give it, yeah, that sense of character.
It's got a diner, it's got a bank, it's got, it's got the things it needs to be a town, a school, yeah, there we go. Other questions from the audience? Yeah. Oh, could you wait for the mic? Yeah, thanks so much.
Although I am so loud.
Oh, yeah, it's just about the online audience.
Yeah. I'm interested to, without knowing your specific background, but in the case of a lot of Métis people, French Métis people, it wasn't actually about choice. In a lot of our families, there was those who could get away with being French and those who could not. And I'm always interested in the different histories that those two groups took, often amongst cousins actually, and wonder, do you see your family as being those who had choice to deny that, or those who couldn't?
That's a really great question, and that's a question that I have about my own grandfather. Like, I know his mom was alive when I was born, but she passed when I was 2. I don't think she had a choice. She was so visibly Indigenous. I don't know if it was an actual choice my grandfather made, or if it was made for him, or I have all these questions, but I could never ask him.
Any other questions in the audience? Thank you, hi.
I'm just wondering if you would use this book, and perhaps you have already done this, read it as an audiobook. What kind of music would you choose to help portray and express your vision, your book, your writing? I mean, or more than one song, or more than one type of music? What would it be?
I think it would be film music.
Anyone in particular, a particular jig, or really?
I can remember there is a couple jigs that I reference in here, and now I cannot remember what I referenced. But there is an audiobook. Oh, and Tanis Paranto does the narration for it, and she is amazing. And she said she called on her aunties and uncles to bring the words to life. So
That's wonderful. That's a really interesting question. I've heard that people are reconnecting with the music because of your book. That it's bringing back memories. Odette Auger has said that.
Yes.
Journalist, yeah, that's wonderful. It's really great. What will happen to this story, do you think?
what a question.
What a question is such a statement. But do you still think about what the characters are going to do, or when it's over, is it really over?
No, I think Florence is gonna stir up some shit.
Oh, good. Okay. That's sort of where I was going. Without being too specific. Does anyone else have what a question?
I think we have enough time for one more question if everyone has a burning one that we've been holding on to. Yeah.
Bear with me because I don't like public speaking. I'm just curious, as you build your connection to culture and community, if you've had any, what have your experiences with that sense of like imposter syndrome thing? Because I know that indigeneity is extremely racialized and quantified by a certain skin tone. And if you don't meet the criteria societally, you're not regarded as Métis or Indigenous. And I'm curious if you've had any of those experiences for yourself, and especially coming up for your writing process.
Thank you for that question. Imposter syndrome, absolutely, especially when I first started connecting. I don't think I have that anymore. It's been a number of years, a couple of decades now. In terms of, I guess, colorism, I've never experienced that within the Métis community. They're welcoming, they understand, they know there's not an issue. I think if I have experienced that, it's been outside, it's been non-Indigenous communities. But I also think that might be changing too, at least when I look back over the last couple of decades. It's not so much of a, I don't know what the word is, shock, surprise. I think people are realizing that it's, yeah, all shades, all colors. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Thank you. That might be.
I think so.
Well, I want to say, first of all, thank you for coming out, for the questions that you asked, or the questions that are unasked that you might ask Tara as she goes to the signing desk. Thank you so much for this. It's a real honor to speak with you, and this story is so important. But beyond that, it's just such a beautiful work of art in and of itself. So thank you, Kichi Marcy, for Wild People Quiet.
I think I'm gonna wake up tomorrow and think this was a dream. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Alrighty, yes, so we're going to move along to the signing portion, but before we do, a big thank you again to all of you for being here, both in person and online. Another big thank you to Scribner Canada and Simon & Schuster Canada for making this evening a possibility and for publishing this lovely book. Another thank you as well for Katherena Vermette for the introduction. Give a round of applause. And also Shelagh Rogers as well for coming to host. Another round of applause. And of course, we truly could not have done this without Tara Gereaux.
Yes.
So if you haven't been here before, we are going to move along to the signing portion, which will take place to my right, just at the table here. Feel free to have a copy of your book signed before you visit the cash desk. So long as you pay for it before you leave, that's all good there. I'm going to come by as well to turn the music back on and to move some of the chairs just to make it a little bit more accessible for everybody too. But again, thank you so much, everybody. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Charlie, picture of us together. Yeah, but you know, yeah, I can do that too. There we go. Thank you for your great question. That was wonderful. Very important point.
Publications put a book out called Drop Threads. It never really got pushed out very well. Everything kind of went underground after that. They didn't do that. But that book talks about the history of what we used to refer to as half-breeds and English, which were the